Folks, welcome to another edition in Real Estate Experts. As always, I'm here to pick the brains of leading real estate agents throughout the state, throughout the country, to try and find the techniques, the strategies and the ways to traverse the minefield when presenting a property, listing a property for sale and choosing a real estate agent. As always, I'm your host, Glenn Twiddle, picking the brains today of Debra Qalo. Debra, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks for inviting me.
So the first question I've often got, Debra, is I'm always trying to find out, there's a lot of agents out there who'll talk the talk. In fact, every agent, if you say, why should I list with you, will say they're the best. So what we need to find out is what makes agents like yourself who actually walk the talk are different from the ones who just talk the talk. So what are some of the critical indicators that will identify to me that I'm dealing with a Debra Qalo rather than a normal real estate agent?
Glenn, if you've talked to any of my previous clients, probably the first thing they'll say to you, she's so damned honest.
Yep. To a fault?
To a fault. Debra doesn't pull punches. She doesn't hold back. If there's issues with the property, and she's also quite willing to come forward and give you all the feedback, the negative and the positive on the property.
Right.
And this is what we need as a vendor. She's also very quick to talk about the pricing on the property, and something that we've found is that she will get the last dollar out of our clients.
Out of the buyers?
out of the clients, out of the buyers.
Yes.
She's just straight.
Wow, I have heard the term smiling assassin has been bandied around when talking about yourself. So it's like you've got that rapport building skill, but you still leave no stone unturned when it comes to negotiating.
That's it, Glenn. I find that I need all the tools that I have at hand, and I've trained over many, many years. You don't get these grey hairs for nothing. And I've just found that I've got the tools, I know how to use them, and I use them very well.
Wow. So tell me, if I'm a seller looking at choosing an agent, and I've got agents to choose from, and I visit 3 of you at an open for inspection, looking for the best agent in the area, what are some of the things that I would see at your open houses with regards to how you deal with buyers and follow up versus a normal agent who might not have the standards that you've got?
Glenn, probably the first thing that you're going to see is my banner out the front.
Yeah, okay.
And you're going to see my signage that's going to direct you to the property.
Right.
If you can't find the property, you can't find me.
Yeah.
So that's probably the first thing. As you come to the property door, I'll leap out of the door and greet you, introduce myself, get your name, and introduce the property to you. I find that this makes people aware of this is what we have. It's not just another property. This is a property presented by Debra.
Wow, yeah.
I also tend to have a table full of information relating to the property, and also sundry information that a buyer may need. Things like the pest and building inspectors, things like finance brokers, also I did say financiers, I did, I'm so sorry. Just the little things. I also tend to prepare a complete display booklet pertaining to the property that gives an outline of the property, what's in the property, what the current owners loved about the property, why did they buy it in the first place, what attracted them.
So it's not just a one-page flyer in your case.
It is not a one-page flyer, Glenn. It takes several hours, and it's a nice presentation document.
Nice. So if you left your open home, you'd remember that one, because I know sometimes when you leave 6 or so open houses and you've got 6 flyers, they all get muddled up into one in our heads, don't they?
Glenn, they throw them out.
Yeah.
It's a single piece of paper, where if you've got a lovely bound document, you're going to take that home with you. It's got a cover on it. You're going to take it home and you're going to flick through it afterwards. And a lot of the information in there is information that you don't need till afterwards. What night is garbage night? Where are the local schools? Just that sort of information. How much are the rates per quarter?
Yeah. And tell me about the follow-up then. After I leave your open home, and again, because I'm leaving your open home and I may be choosing 2 or 3 other agents to compare you to, how are you going to look? What am I going to receive from you after the fact, and what might I expect from some of the other guys?
Glenn, depending on who's standing in front of me, you would no sooner be in your car with the car door closing and you would have received a text from me saying thank you so much for attending my open home.
Okay, nice.
I would have had the conversation with you before you left the house, saying, look, thank you so much for coming, followed up by the text, once again thanking the people for coming.
Wow.
And then I would leave people, as you know, when you're making a life decision, Glenn, I can't be the the head influencer of that decision.
Understood.
However, I really prefer to give people a little bit of headspace, a little bit of time to sit down to make their life decision, and then I'll come back to them after the weekend.
Okay. So that'd be the phone call, would it?
Yes, yes. I would have arranged a time at the open home. I would have suggested a time, and they'll be prepared and I'll be prepared, and they've had the time to consider the inspection.
I mean, you're right there. A lot of salespeople, I think, make a mistake thinking they're selling the house, but you've probably very accurately said you're not selling the house and influencing them, but you're helping them to make that influenced choice themselves.
That's right, Glenn.
Yeah.
I believe that it's a misnomer to say that we're sales agents.
I agree.
We are life assistants.
Wow, very well put. And I love it how it sounds like you're being so courteous. You're thanking us at the open home. You're thanking us in a text afterwards. But there's no doubting that we're going to remember you because of those contact points.
You are.
Where some of the other guys, I tell you, I know I've had reports where there's no follow-up whatsoever at all. So very good to see.
Hi, my name is Grant Cuthbert. I've known Debra for approximately 5 years, and I originally bought my first home in Queensland through her. I called her in to sell it recently, and she sold it for me within 2 weeks, achieving a price that I was very happy with. It was listed previously by another estate agent, and Debra brought me an offer of $100,000 more than the previous agent. I've been very happy with Debra's professionalism, and I honestly believe that the marketing tools that Debra used to get my house sold were of the highest standard.
So the next question I have for you is with regards to some agents across the country. Now, I know it's not as prevalent in Queensland because we've got that standard rate, at least at the moment, where most agents charge the same fee. But in other areas of the country, you have some agents charging very high commissions, some that are very low, and everywhere in between. Now, I know that you're not the most expensive agent in the area, nor are you the cheapest, but tell me about how, as a seller, should I go with the guy that's $5,000 cheaper and save the $5,000? What's the thinking there?
Glenn, what I've found is you honestly get what you pay for. I've found it myself in buying cars and buying furniture, and we're talking about a life transaction here. We're probably talking about the biggest, most expensive asset you have.
Yeah, not the car and the furniture. We're talking about the house.
Sorry, Glenn.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And do we really feel that we're going to quibble over a couple of $1,000 on what's likely to be a $500,000 plus asset? This is your biggest asset. No, Glenn, I don't find that I have too much trouble convincing people that the difference between a discount agent and myself is chalk and cheese.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that difference, if that difference is $3,000, what are the increments that we're negotiating in? Like at the end price, we're not negotiating in hundreds or $1,000 or $2. It's $5,000 and $10,000 at that pointy end of the transaction, isn't it?
It is, Glenn. And I think I'll just relate it back to your no frills agents. They're getting their $6,000 irrespective of whether they're selling a $200,000 property or a $1.2 million property. Do you think they care whether they shake out the last $100,000 out of the fellow buying the $1.2 million property when there is no difference in the commission?
There's no incentive to do so.
There is no incentive for them, Glenn.
No, understood. And I've heard it said by my friend and colleague, Mr. John McGrath, that often the cheapest agent is the one who gets that extra $100,000 for you, because effectively that buyer has paid for the commission and then some. Yeah, so very good. All right.
Hi, my name's Crystal. We've known Deb for about 8 years now, and when it came time to selling our house, there was no second thought in our mind. Deb was going to sell it. And within a couple of weeks of having it online, she sold it. Deb's fabulous, and we wouldn't go anywhere else.
Okay.
So the next question I've got, and we're not seeing it as much on the northern suburbs of Brisbane here as we are maybe in some other areas of the country and even in the world, but we're seeing a slight tweak in owners wanting to sell properties themselves. I mean, so the question I suppose I have for an expert like yourself is, do I really need a real estate agent? Can I sell it myself by putting a sign on the property and putting the property on Gumtree or something like that?
I just pulled out my tooth.
Okay.
I've saved myself $2,000. My mouth hurts.
Right.
Okay, I've just saved myself $2,000. And I say to vendors the same thing.
Wow.
Yes, you can sell it yourself. You can save yourself several $1,000s, but you're going to cause yourself a lot of pain.
Wow.
Because I would rather deal with a professional every day of the week. And selling your own home is a much bigger transaction than pulling a single tooth.
Understood. Okay. Well, I suppose it's like, because I know that you guys work 6, sometimes 7 days a week. So I suppose if someone did do that, one of the things I thought is, do they have to take some annual leave so they can really, because a buyer doesn't want to hear, if they call you at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, they don't want to hear, oh, well, I'm actually at work. How about I see you on the weekend? Buyers don't want to hear that, do they?
Glenn, it's a different type of buyer I've found who approaches a sale by owner property.
Ah, that's true too.
There's just something about them. Everybody thinks that they're negotiating cheaper. The vendor thinks by negating his commission, he's getting the upper hand. The buyer thinks by negating the commission, he can offer a lower price.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's a false economy
It
from the
really
sounds
is
of
a
it.
false economy, Glenn. And I think you'll find with your professional agent, I think I've mentioned this before, we have all the tools.
Yeah.
And while you may have a camera on your phone, and we've all got our little 35mm cameras, you really, really need to get the professionals in to present your property. You and I have both seen the results of using photos off your phone.
Absolutely.
They just don't do it.
Yes.
Also the script writing. And Glenn, also the negotiation. Like, I get paid a lot of money to negotiate the best outcome and the best dollar for the vendor. You're only going to do this once as an owner vendor. You're only going to do this once. You've had no practice at it.
Yep.
Who do you really want to use?
Yeah, all day, every day, you're doing it.
Absolutely, Glenn.
Yeah.
I've been trained. I've got certification. Look, anything. Like I said, it all comes back to pulling your teeth out. You
Yeah.
could pull your own teeth out. Do you really want to do it?
No, thank you.
No.
Yeah, and I suppose what you mentioned is that as a trained gun negotiator, you do get well remunerated, but that's only a fraction of the money that you negotiate. You just get a small percentage of what the extra you negotiate and put in the pockets of your sellers. So,
Actually,
and that's a fair deal, isn't it?
It is. Well, actually, Glenn, you touched on that. It's very interesting what vendors actually think we get. And if you looked at the number of hours that we can put in per transaction,
Yes.
it would probably be better for me to be working as a checkout chick at Woolies. Sometimes you can put in over 100 hours on a property.
Yes.
And the commission rate that comes back to us isn't quite...
But it's almost like you get prize money for getting a result, not appearance money. And sometimes that result can take a long time, sometimes it can take a short time, but at the end of the day, you don't get paid until your vendor's happy with your result.
Absolutely, Glenn. And I say to vendors, and it's, sometimes I do speak a little bit too bluntly, I say to them, if I don't sell your house, if you're not happy, I don't eat.
Yeah, very good. So you've got your livelihood on the line, and you're putting your skills to the test each and every day.
I do.
And thank goodness you've got the good ones. So
Thank
very
you.
good. Excellent.
Debra Qalo, one of my top agents here at Remax Ultimate, would thoroughly recommend it to any client out there thinking of selling their most valuable asset. Great marketer, great negotiator. She'll go beyond what most agents wouldn't do for their client. I'd recommend her to anybody out there thinking of selling. I'd even sell my own home with her. And I'm sure you won't be able to get anyone better than Debra Qalo.
So the next question I have for you is on the confusion that's wrapped around how do I sell a property. Like some agents just really push for auction and they won't do anything else but auction a property, and who cares what a seller thinks. And some agents just hate auctions and won't do them. What's your weapon of choice with regards to method of sale?
Glenn, I've tried auctions. I must admit I haven't been successful, but that's not to say that auctions aren't a successful tool to have. I've tried initially with a couple of properties. I've tried going on without a price. I found this is incredibly frustrating for buyers because they either ignore the property completely or they come back to you and go, well, how much is it? And this creates an aggravation in the buyers.
So after all that experience of years of trial and error back in your early days, what have you found is the weapon that works for your sellers today?
Glenn, private treaty.
Okay.
Private treaty.
is?
Private treaty basically is, I know it sounds a little bit lame to say that you take the pretty pictures, you put it up online and you sit and twiddle your thumbs and wait. That's what people think we do, but there's actually a lot more activity behind the scenes than this. There's a lot more by way of presentation of the property. There's a lot more by way of the actual marketing of the property, in writing the scripts, in doing the photo shoots for the property, in getting all the marketing paperwork ready, in preparing for the open homes. Then hopefully, and most of the time, we'll actually have multiple offers on a property. So it's negotiating with the multiple offers on the property.
Yep.
Then there's the exciting part, where the part where you're sitting on your hands or chewing your fingernails, the part where you're in a conditional phase of a contract and you're liaising, you're negotiating again between your financier, your pest and building inspectors, the buyers and the sellers. And what I love, Glenn, is when it all comes together at the end. This is the part I love. I find personally that an auction leaves money on the table. This is what I've found. This is my belief, not held by others. This is my belief. What I mean when I say leaves money on the table, 20 people turn up at an auction, 5 people are registered bidders, 15 people are ready to pounce on the property after the property sells. They're not in a financial position, they haven't done their pest and building prior to auction. The property sells under hammer, probably, I'll say $10,000, $15,000 above or below or within the reserve price. Leaving money on the table is where one of those 15 other prospective buyers goes, I would have paid more for that.
And I got to say that I've got to 100% agree with you, because as embarrassing as that is, I'm one of those buyers that wants the safety of that conditional period, where I've got a few weeks to get my billing pests done, to get my finance done, knowing that the property's mine if I want it. I buy like that. So if there's a lot of buyers like that, like me, that are willing to pay a little bit extra for that safety period, then you're right. I think that sometimes there is some money left on the table, and I'm glad you found that for yourself as well. And you'd rather go down the private method of sale that, with your skill, doesn't leave money on the table.
I don't want any money, sorry Glenn, to be left on the table that could have gone to the vendor.
Yeah, and that's what they pay you for.
They do.
Very good,
They
Debra.
do.
Nice.
Hi. We met Debra just over a week ago. She had placed a leaflet in our letterbox and we were looking to sell our property, so I asked her to come round and she answered all my questions thoroughly and completely, and I did question her for 2 hours but came back with very good answers and a realistic price on our property. So we decided to list with Debra. She then achieved a contract on our property within 5 days, which was absolutely awesome. Has helped us through the whole process, kept me in touch with everything that's happening, what paperwork needs doing. Has been very helpful and very, very good to work with, and I've already recommended her to one set of friends and will continue to recommend her to others too.
So the last question I really have for you, Debra, is about a practice that I've heard you describe as buying the listing. And you've said to me that it's a common mistake that you've seen cost sellers thousands of dollars. Can you tell me what you mean by that?
Glenn, it doesn't just cost thousands of dollars, it costs the sellers their pride. I'm transparent, I'm honest, and I'm straight. When I go into your property and I sit down with you and I give you a comparative market appraisal and I give you an indicator of where I believe your property will sit on the market, I didn't pull the figure out of the air. I will actually come to you with documented proof of where these numbers came from, where they're coming from past sales and where they're coming from properties that are currently on the market. I find it very disheartening and very upsetting after I've spent time with you and discussed these, where you've had your ear tickled, and it does happen.
Yeah, the other guy comes in and, yeah.
He does, Glenn. He tickles your ear. He says to you, I'm going to get you $50,000 more. Mm-hmm. And it's a frustration for me.
Does he bring the evidence and the proof that you're talking about, or does he just pull it out of thin air? Is that the way me as a seller can tell where my, like you're saying, ears being tickled? Is that how I know? A lack of proof and evidence?
Glenn, I think sometimes, yes, he does pull it out of the air. And I also think that he's not comparing apples with apples.
So he might bring some evidence, but it might not be the right evidence.
And that's why I say to people when I prepare a comparative market analysis, the first thing I say to them, look guys, we're looking at apples with apples and oranges with oranges. And I believe that the other agent who's giving them a higher dollar feedback is comparing apples with oranges with lemons, and it's not a true reflection of where their property is sitting at the moment in the market.
Understood. Well, it's been great sharing some insights with you, Debra. Thank you so much for spending some time. Folks, if you want to get in touch with Debra, you can absolutely check on the Real Estate Experts website just down below. Guys, Debra, thank you so much for being with me. Till next time on Real Estate Experts, this is Glenn Twiddle signing off. Bye for now.